There are people who are actually saying that Bitcoin does not have the possibility of gaining mass adoption unless Bitcoin starts being used as a money, used as a medium of exchange. Throughout history, in order for something to become a money, it has typically or historically gone through 4 stages of evolution. There are 4 stages to become a true, real, legitimate money. What I am against is the idea that we need to spend our Bitcoin for Bitcoin to gain mass adoption. I am not a believer in that. And that the hodlers out there, those who are using Bitcoin more as a store of value, that they're hurting or holding back the mass adoption of Bitcoin. You can hurt Bitcoin's price appreciation for the future. I believe that not hurt it indefinitely. I believe that you can slow it down. I believe that Bitcoin's store of value phase needs to be respected. The hodlers are the buyers of last resort, the ones that will not sell, the ones that will not spend, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what economic tragedy has happened, they stand the line. And emergent money experiences the most hyperbolic, meteoric price appreciation in its journey toward becoming a money.
Statistical mathematical fact
Never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Today's talk, what I'm going to actually be delving into or talking about is my opinion on spend and replace, which is a movement that has been in recent times gaining a lot of attraction. I've seen it more than once over the last several weeks on Bitcoin Twitter, and it's gaining a great deal of momentum, in my opinion. And that's not a good or bad thing. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing, in my opinion. It's just a thing. And someone actually asked, Oliver, there are people who are actually saying that Bitcoin does not have the possibility of gaining mass adoption unless Bitcoin starts being used as a money, used as a medium of exchange. The thesis, or what I believe the thesis is behind this spend and replace movement, is to basically, let's create an army to start using our Bitcoin, to start spending it on cheeseburgers and beers and sodas and buying milk at your local corner store and supermarket, and that this is how Bitcoin is going to gain adoption. Satoshi Nakamoto named, or actually initially called, the Bitcoin network a peer-to-peer cash. And this is all very true to a certain extent. I am not against someone spending their Bitcoin and then replacing what they spending it on groceries, and then when they get an opportunity, replacing what they spent, replacing the Bitcoin that they spent with more purchased Bitcoin. This is what the spend and replace movement is all about. I am not against that. I don't think that that hurts Bitcoin in any way, in my opinion. Again, everything I'm about to tell you is just from my perspective. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm just a guy on the internet. So I'm not against that. What I am against is the idea we need to spend our Bitcoin for Bitcoin to gain mass adoption. I am not a believer in that. And that the hodlers out there, those who are using Bitcoin more as a store of value, that they're hurting or holding back the mass adoption of Bitcoin. This is what I am against. Personally, this is what I don't buy into. And I believe that there are two big reasons why this is wrong. And I believe it stems from the idea that we need to spend our Bitcoin for mass adoption to occur, stems from a misunderstanding of how a money becomes a money. So let's just talk about that very quickly. Throughout history, in order for something to become a money, it has typically or historically gone through four stages of evolution. There are four stages to become a true, real, legitimate money. First, a money typically starts off as being a trinket. It starts off as being a collectible. Gold did this. It started off being something shiny, something interesting, something people started to put on their necks and on their fingers, carry around in their pockets because it looked unique. But this was the collectible stage. There's no mass adoption during the collectible stage, the same way Bitcoin during its collectible stage, starting from 2009, did not have mass adoption. It was largely adopted by a bunch of libertarians, a bunch of free-thinking cypherpunks, a bunch of computer geeks, but it was collectible, it was cute, and that's typically the way a money starts its journey toward an emerging money starts its journey toward becoming a full-fledged money. It starts off as a collectible, a trinket. As that collectible group grows in number, there is this natural metamorphosis into the second stage of what is ultimately a full-fledged money. People start to recognize that others regard this trinket or collectible as valuable. So they start to hold it. They start to store their excess in this collectible, knowing, having a greater increase in their confidence that I'll always be able to sell this to one of the collectors because this is now growing as a very recognized collectible. I'll always be able to hand it off to someone that has a desire for this. That is the store of value stage. And this is the stage right now that Bitcoin is in my opinion. It has moved from being a trinket. It has moved from being a cute little thing adopted by this very niche group of computer nerds. It has emerged beyond just a libertarian tool for freedom, and it's moved to individuals all over the world deciding that after 14 years of being the best performing asset the world has ever known, there's an increased faith that I can store my excess value in this, that I can save in this, that Bitcoin is now increasingly becoming recognized as one of the world's greatest savings technology. This is where I believe we are today. We are not in the spending phase of Bitcoin's evolution toward becoming a money. We are in the saving stage of Bitcoin eventually becoming a money. And I believe that if you push Bitcoin too quickly through the savings phase, I believe that if you try to speed up the intended duration of the store of value phase, you can hurt Bitcoin's price appreciation for the future. I believe that not hurt it indefinitely. I believe that you can slow it down. I believe that Bitcoin's store of value phase needs to be respected. The hodlers are the buyers of last resort, the ones that will not sell, the ones that will not spend, the ones that will not move, the ones that will not crumble, the ones that will not bow at the knee, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what economic tragedy has happened. They stand the line. They toe the ground. The spenders don't toe the ground. The sellers don't toe the ground. It's the hodlers that toe the ground. And it is this very important store of value phase that is the wealth creation phase. It is the phase during which an emergent money experiences the most hyperbolic, meteoric price appreciation in its journey toward becoming a money. It is my belief that if you believe the glory days of Bitcoin's price appreciation are over and that the gains that were experienced during its trinket or collectible phase is a thing of the past, it is my belief that you are very, very mistaken. Because throughout history, it is the second phase, it is the second move, it is the second evolution of a money that experiences the greatest, the most meteoric price appreciation of all the four stages. And so I believe that Bitcoin's best days are ahead of itself. Bitcoin's greatest price appreciation from a US dollar fiat perspective, that's in front of us. That's not behind us. In a nutshell, I believe, personally, my opinion, we have not seen anything yet because we have just begun the second phase of this emergent money being a store of value. There's 0.5% of an $8 billion person world that's adopted Bitcoin. And that 0.5% adoption has actually led to Bitcoin going from 0 to 30,000. So where do you think this is going to be at 3% adoption from a US fiat dollar perspective? Where is it going to be at 5%, 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, 80%? The best days are not behind us at a 0.5% adoption. The best days are ahead of us, but it's going to require we stay securely locked into this hodling state, not the spending state, not the letting it go, not passing it around to each other. Right now, I believe, I can't remember the exact statistic, but I believe that we've hit an all-time high in users or Bitcoin wallets that have not moved in over a year. If I'm not mistaken, it's 76%, 78%, 73%. I'm not quite sure of the number, but I will tell you this. It's higher than it has ever been. Now think about this. We're in the store of value era of Bitcoin's journey toward becoming a full-fledged money. And 70+% of all the people who have adopted Bitcoin up until this point, they didn't care whether there was the bear market of their lives, economic turmoil, financial collapse, weakness in the system, credit cycle going on, contraction. It didn't matter. They were the holders and the buyers of last resort. That number is not going to go down. It's reaching all-time new highs. So at one point, that number of wallets that did not move in a year was at 60%. At one time, the all-time high was at 50%. At one time, the all-time high of wallets that didn't move in a year were at 30%, 20%. It's climbing, making all-time new highs. And it's not going to go down, in my opinion. We're going to move from 70% of all wallets that haven't moved in a year to 80% of all wallets that haven't moved in a year, to over 90% of all wallets that haven't moved in a year. Why? Because Bitcoin is in the store of value stage, the store of value period, in a four-step process of becoming a full-fledged money. Now, what's the third step after store of value? It is medium of exchange. And this is what the spend and replace army wants to push us to very quickly. They want to skip past the hodl stage. They want to skip past the holding on to it, where enough people in the world have it to then become a medium of exchange. They want to do it now when only 0.5% of the world has it. What major effect is that going to have? Today, Bitcoin is a terrible currency. It is an amazing store of value. Arguably, it's the best store of value vehicle human beings have ever had. We've had gold, we've had silver, we've had copper, we've had rocks, we've had wampum, we've had seashells, we've had beads. But Bitcoin is arguably the best savings tool human beings have ever had. And this group wants to skip past that and go to spending it, letting it go. This is not the time to do that, in my opinion. Again, Everything I'm saying is my opinion. The medium of exchange period will come, and it will come naturally when there's a much greater number of people that have it. And so when 60% of the world has this, the same way about 65% of the world has access to the internet today, and that happened over a 25-year period, more or less. When 60% of the world has it, it can then naturally transition over into, you know what? I like that car. I like that house. I like this person's artwork. You understand? Because enough people have it to start moving it between each other. But today, while Bitcoin is the best, in my opinion, the best store of value the world has ever had, it's the best savings mechanism the world has ever had, it is the worst money right now. It's the worst currency. I have a business. I tried to incorporate Bitcoin into the business. It sucks. I just have to be honest with you. Every business owner will tell you that it freaking sucks. It's not ready for that. And so when Bitcoin was a collectible, it was the best collectible the world has ever seen, ever had. Look at how many wealthy people for the rest of their lives, generational wealth that was created because it was a collectible. It was the best collectible ever known to man. It's moved to the store of value stage, and now it is the best store of value mankind has ever had. But if you try to push it into the next evolution, into the next stage, which it's not ready for, it stops being the best in the world. It starts being the worst in the world. It's a worse unit of account. It's a bad unit of account. It's a bad medium of exchange today. So we can't rush this. And remember what I said, the store of value stage, the stage that we're in right now, where you hold on to it for dear life and you never let it go. You never let it go. This is what creates the most meteoric price appreciation in the asset. It is only when that price appreciation starts to slow down that it starts to naturally morph into the medium of exchange, because the opportunity risk of upside movement has been diminished. So as long as this opportunity cost, if I spend Bitcoin today, 10 Bitcoin today on a house, it's possible that that house in the future is going to be 1 Bitcoin. That's opportunity cost. As long as that opportunity cost is high, we should be hodling. We should not be spending, in my opinion. And listen, I'm okay if you're living on the Bitcoin standard and you have to spend your Bitcoin. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the idea that if every single person who has Bitcoin doesn't start spending it, that Bitcoin's going to fail. That is not what I buy into. Medium of exchange, we're not ready for. In mass, do it if you like. That's a personal choice. But Bitcoin does not need to be a medium of exchange for mass adoption. And let me give you one key example. Gold is the most valuable single asset in the world today. It is approaching, if not having already crossed, $12 trillion. Apple's not $12 trillion, and that's the most valuable equity asset in the world today. No asset, no single asset is more valuable than gold today, $12 trillion. Yet, merchants are not accepting gold as payment. People are not carrying gold around in their pockets on their cell phones, using it to buy milk, using it to buy burgers and beers. It's not a medium of exchange. It always had a problem moving from store of value to medium of exchange. In fact, that's one of its big failures. Its ability to be easily transportable and be easily a medium of exchange, because you can't shave a brick of gold to buy milk. So it never really became a full-fledged money. It always basically stopped its journey at store of value. People use silver as the medium of exchange and gold as their savings mechanism. Then we went to using paper notes, promissory notes backed by your Bitcoin held by someone as the medium of exchange, and your Bitcoin stayed stationary at a custodian. And then we moved to fiat being used as the medium of exchange that was originally tied to the gold that you had stored with someone else at some particular point until that link was severed in 1971. My point is, gold over a 5,000-year period moved through only two stages of money formation. Trinkets at first, jewelry, rings, necklaces, piercings. Two, I'm saving my excess in this, and it never really could get past the store of value stage appropriately. And yet, without ever getting past store of value, it is $12 trillion today. Bitcoin's what, a $500 billion, 600 billion? It's a baby. We need to stay in the hodl state, the saving state, the whole state, not the spend state. We need this for quite a long while. Now, while it took gold 5,000 years to achieve a $12 trillion valuation, I do not think anything close to that is necessary for Bitcoin to not only take out gold, but to rise in mass value from a US dollar point of view exponentially higher, because the digital non-material form of an analog thing is always exponentially higher and more valuable than the analog thing that it replaces. To me, the appropriate narrative today is that Bitcoin is not a currency, despite being labeled a cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is not a money yet, despite being called a potential global money. Bitcoin is a savings technology. Bitcoin is a store of value. And yes, Bitcoin is more than digital gold by a long shot. But right now, its best use case is as a digital gold today, because we're at step two. And step two is the digital gold store of value stage. So it shines better, for lack of a better term. Bitcoin shines better. We explain it as a digital gold today, not as a dollar, not as a currency, not as a money. It's terrible. But I tell you this, it's terrible because that's not where it should be. A 14-year-old should not be in certain adult situations. They're good as a 14-year-old in 14-year-old situations, but they might be bad in 35-year-old situations. Bitcoin is no different, in my opinion. So we can't force it to speed up and be a 35-year-old when it's a freaking 14-year-old. I wanted to address this because I started to get more and more comments regarding the spend and replace mantra that I started to hear more and more about. But I just wanted all of my followers and traders to understand that in order for a money to truly become full-fledged, it must go through all four of those steps: collectible, store of value, and the store of value needs to be long and deep, long and deep. That's what will secure it as a very stable medium of exchange, where we start to exchange it for services and products and things of that nature. And then when enough people start to use it to exchange for things that they desire, it will automatically morph without any movement whatsoever into a unit of account, where you no longer use the US dollar as a measurement tool for the value of Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin is the value of Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. One Satoshi is one Satoshi. And you no longer start saying, well, wait a minute, what's the value of 1,000 Satoshis in US dollars? No, 1,000 Satoshis is 1,000 Satoshis. And so that's the final step of a full-fledged money. Now, what the shitcoiners out there want to do is they want to pick off one of the four items. They either want to be a trinket, and that's it, a collectible, and that's it, NFTs, BS. They either want to claim to be a medium of exchange, and that's it, Monero, BS. Some of them claim to be a good store of value. BS. With unlimited supply. BS. Not happening. Some of them want to claim to be a unit of account. BS. You can't be one of them. You have to, there's no cheating. You have to go through all the 4 phases to be a real money. And by cheating and skipping over the phases to go to a medium of exchange doesn't work. Skipping over all the other phases to go to a unit of account doesn't work. Trying to be one of these 4 doesn't work. That's BS, and it's cheating, and it never works. No money in the history of the world has truly gone through all 4 steps. And this is the most important point of our talk today. For the first time, we have something. For the first time, humans have something that is not controlled by any human on the planet or any organization run by a human. It is fair, open, and available to every human being, but is not run by any human being. I'm going to repeat that. A fair, open, emerging money that is not run by any human being, not controlled or influenced by any human being, but is available to every human being without permission, without obstacles, without anything. And so for the first time, we have something that can get through all 4 of those stages. Fiat currency didn't go through all 4 of those stages. For the first time, we have something that has the ability to get through all 4 of those stages. In summary, guys, it's the hodlers right now that are playing, in my opinion. This is my opinion. If you think I'm wrong, I'm open to hearing your comments. But in my opinion, it's the hodlers that are playing the most important role today, because that is what fits appropriately with the second phase of becoming a money. Store of value, savings mechanism, hold on for dear life. Do not let go. And it is this phase that experiences, not the first phase, it is this phase that experiences historically the greatest price appreciation, solidifying period of the entire journey. The subsequent 2 phases that follow, medium of exchange and unit of account, that's when your asset basically not flattens out, but flattens out more, because I do believe that the value of Bitcoin will rise forever. And I believe that because the population will rise forever, the Bitcoin person value ratio will continue to drop over time. I made a post about this just a little while ago where I said, it is estimated that the world's population will be at 10 billion by the year 2050. So it's 8 billion now. What's a human's worth of Bitcoin today? Take 21 million and divide it by 8 billion, and you get what a single human being's value, what a single human being's worth of Bitcoin is. Now, compare that value to 2050, which is not that far away. Many of you are going to be around in 2050. And the value of Bitcoin per individual in 2050 is exponentially different. That ratio will continue to be less Bitcoin per human, less Bitcoin per human, less Bitcoin per human, less Bitcoin per human forever. That's right. My mother used to say, Oliver, never say forever. Mom, I'm sorry, forever. This will never, ever, ever, ever stop, in my opinion, ever. So the value of Bitcoin per human is constantly going to become more scarce, more scarce, more scarce forever. Maybe, just maybe, you want to get some of this in case it catches on. To summarize a quote by Satoshi Nakamoto. Sandy's saying US BTC using Bitcoin now is creating liquidity. I agree, but I agree that using it, having a circular economy does add some liquidity benefits to Bitcoin. But don't confuse that with the need for liquidity for Bitcoin to succeed. This is my point. Gold, right, doesn't have a circular economy. You're not transacting with gold. You're not using gold. And it's the most valuable asset in the world. It doesn't have a circular economy, and it's the most valuable singular asset in the world. So if you think that Bitcoin needs that to succeed and to grow in value, you're mistaken. You're not using Apple to buy milk. Apple is the single most valuable equity asset on planet Earth, publicly traded at least anyway. And you're not using it. You're not using Apple. There's no circular economy with Apple stock. You're not buying burgers and beers and milk with your Apple stock. Yet it's the most valuable publicly traded stock in the history of the world. So I understand you're right, but don't think that we need that for Bitcoin to become successful, more successful, I should say, and take over the world. We don't need that. It's not the time for that right now. What is the least, Derek is asking, what is the least I can invest in Bitcoin? $1, 50 cents, 25 cents. Start where you are. Bitcoin does not discriminate against anyone. Your color doesn't matter. Where you were born doesn't matter. Your socioeconomic status doesn't matter. How much money you have doesn't matter. All, in my opinion, again, everything I'm saying is my opinion, is just whatever excess you have, whatever you don't need to live on, put it there. You're catching Bitcoin at its best stage in the 4-stage process. The first stage, as meteoric as Bitcoin's rise was in the first stage, that is not the best stage because that's the riskiest stage. You took on huge risk in the first 14 years of Bitcoin's life, in the first 10 years of Bitcoin's life. It was a huge bet. In fact, it was actually borderline stupid. People got rewarded for that stupidity. I get it, but that's not the best stage. The best stage is the second stage. And we've just entered the second stage. We are early. And the second stage, over time, will make the first stage look like we were just warming up in the parking lot of a professional baseball game. Do you understand? We're still that early, in my opinion. And so I don't care if you have only $1 a week, put the dollar in. If you've got 50 cents, put the 50 cents in, if that's all you can spare. You got $10, put the $10 in. But please make sure, in my opinion, the way to do this is to make sure you do it regularly, that you don't do it like you don't do it like a casino where you're gonna pick a number and roll the dice and that's it. No, make price, US dollar price irrelevant by just regularly putting something in. Then the price becomes irrelevant. People always say, Oliver, what price did you get Bitcoin? I say, I got all of them. They said, what do you mean? I said, I bought all of them. So I show them a weekly chart and I say, you see each one of these bars? They all belong to me because I buy every single week. And it blows their freaking mind. You buy every week? Yeah. Oh my God, how much? How much do you need to do that? $1, 50 cents, 75 cents? And it freaking blows their mind. And so I tell people, why not own every single freaking weekly bar on the Bitcoin chart? Claim it as yours. Every weekly bar is mine. It has my name tattooed on it. It has my initials, OV, Oliver Velez, on every weekly bar. They're all mine. I have all the prices. And so when you do it like that, you practically eliminate fear. You move out of this fiat mindset, and price doesn't matter. You enjoy the green bars up, you enjoy the red bars down. Doesn't matter. This is a long-term game, guys. And that is what I have to tell you. And this is what shocks a lot of people about my passion for Bitcoin today, is because I have largely been known over the last 3 decades as a short-term oriented trader. Because that is my public persona, a lot of people don't understand that 98% of what I do has been long-term for the past 25 years. All right, my short-term oriented play is a very small portion of what I do in my portfolio, and my traders understand this. It's the people that are looking from the outside in, that almost all of my time is focused on long-term play. This is not something to trade. This is not something to play for fiat gains. This is to escape the nonsense. This is to earn in the nonsense world and to take excess out of the nonsense world and put it into something real, which we finally freaking have. That's the name of the game. Excess out of clown world and put into the real world. Don't put what you need. Put what you don't need. What can actually just sit there for the next 10 years. Do you understand? And I believe if you do it like that, you will change the course of your entire family line. That is my belief. That is not financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I believe. I'm a baby. I came into the Bitcoin world as a studier in 2018, early 2019. I made it my job to study the bear market, to study Bitcoin during the bear market. I told my traders who kept telling me all throughout 2017, especially toward the end, Oliver, why are we not in Bitcoin? Oliver, why are we not doing Bitcoin? And my general answer was, I don't understand it. I think it's a very young market, and I do what I know. But I told him that I need this thing to crash. There's no way I'm going to get involved with it now. I need to live with it during a setback. And I used 2019 to watch Bitcoin drop from just under 20,000. I studied it. I watched it. I started going down the cryptocurrency shitcoin rabbit hole and Bitcoin. It was that period that made me believe that I want to participate with this once it bottoms out. I believed I had that bottom in March of 2020. And that is when my traders and I, all of us, 6,000 plus traders, we pounced on the opportunity. March 12th and March 13th of 2020, we pounced on our opportunity on that big giant plunge down below 5,000 and briefly below 4,000. And that was my first entry, our first entry into Bitcoin. That does not make me an OG. I am a baby. I am still learning. I'm going to probably still get a lot of things wrong. People are going to find ways to correct me, and I am open for that. All I can do is give you my opinion based on what I know up until this point. But I promise you this, I will continue to evolve with this thing, and I will never let it go. And anyone who wants to walk this journey with me, I will walk with them hand in hand.